In a world where the water is dirty and medical care limited or even non-existent, there is also little dignity. They are called crawlers. Living on handouts and often shunned by their families, these Indian polio victims are a tragic reminder of how far so many others have come in the 4 decades since the first polio vaccine was developed. His name is Mohammed Koka. He says he got polio 9 years ago when he was 15.
Earlier on when I was fine, I had a very good life. But since I've had polio, it's terrible. I feel ashamed begging. I don't feel like begging. But what to do? I have to feed my stomach.
His days are spent pleading for spare change.
What can I do? I have to beg. I ask for work, nobody gives me work. I have to look after my younger brother also. There's nobody behind me. There's nobody who will support me or nobody who will back me. So I have to take care of myself and my younger brother.
There are an estimated 20 million polio victims worldwide. Half of all new reported cases are in India, where conditions are ideal for the spread of the disease.
There's high humidity. There's very poor sanitation. There's a very high level of density of population. And then when you add to that the incomplete vaccination and often low coverage of the population, then you've got all the elements to continue the virus for years and years and years. And that's exactly what's happened.
It gives you a lot of pain, and that's why you try to do something for the community.
Dr. Harsh Vardhan is former Minister of Health for the city of Delhi and was an early supporter of the campaign to eradicate polio.
I knew that there was a movement going on across the whole world to eradicate this virus, just like we did for smallpox.
India's ambitious plan to eradicate the polio virus is being matched by a growing determination to do better for its victims. If the plight of people like Mohammed the beggar illustrates the way things have been, this school, just a few miles away, shows how things can become.
This is a very good school. I like to study here. I can do everything. Nobody makes fun of me.
It's called Akshay Pratishan, and it's a private school for 300 poor children. Half have polio.
I think I'm quite like the rest of them. I also walk like the other kids walk.
Such a message of tolerance is a cornerstone of the program here and is taught along with the expected courses in academics, phys ed, and vocational training.
They get everything which is needed for a human being. They get a feeling of they are wanted. They get a feeling of love and care. And that is more important than any material things.
Making life better for the country's polio victims draws praise from all corners. But health officials have long known that the best way to deal with India's polio problem is to eradicate the virus altogether. Yet in a nation of nearly 1 billion people, many of whom live in either densely packed urban areas or, at the other extreme, in remote villages where even basic medical care can be hard to get, the prospect of systematic, comprehensive, documentable vaccination is daunting. And yet that's exactly what's been happening for several years now in developing countries worldwide. On so-called national immunization days, all children under the age of 5 are targeted to receive the oral polio vaccine on a single day. What's expected to be India's final round of NIDs is just days away, and this vaccine, part of an estimated 130 million doses, will begin a journey of hope. Health officials, accompanied by an army of volunteers more than 10 times larger than the Allied force that invaded Normandy, will fan out across the country. They'll be carrying ice-packed coolers filled with tiny vials of vaccine. The goal? from the heart of the city to the most distant villages, get 2 drops in the mouth of every child under the age of 5. TV commercials help get the word out, as do newspaper ads. There's even a commemorative postage stamp, and all reflect India's determination to succeed.
We are now quite close to polio eradication, and another couple of years we should see that the virus is out of the country, and simultaneously we also join the band of those nations who are polio free.
The all-in-one-day strategy is a big reason why eradication is at hand, in part because it creates a virtual wall of immunity that the virus cannot penetrate. But it also helps ensure that the vaccine, which goes bad within a day if not kept refrigerated, is administered in a timely fashion. It is an enormous undertaking.
It's not the elimination of a disease. What we're really trying to do is eradicate the virus that causes the disease. Once that's done, we're looking at a target where the whole world can stop immunizing children with polio vaccine.
And though most in the West seem unaware of either the eradication campaign or its imminent landmark achievement, its very success is in large part rooted in the West, specifically in the hearts, wallets, and will of a charitable organization based in America with members worldwide, a group that was determined to do what many had only dreamed possible: eradicate the polio virus from the face of the earth by the year 2000.
April 12, 1955. Victory over epidemic poliomyelitis.
In 1955, Dr. Jonas Salk produced a polio vaccine that claimed 80 to 90% effectiveness. It also was safe. Because it was produced from a dead polio virus, there was no chance of getting the disease from the vaccine.
Although polio is most devastating in the United States, its mark lies over all the civilized world. And the entire world heralded the discovery which assured an end to one of mankind's most dread diseases.
Well, not exactly, as science discovered.
The Salk vaccine prevented paralytic poliomyelitis, that is, the clinical symptoms, but had limited effect in actually preventing reinfection. So, in other words, with the Salk vaccine, after some years, one could become reinfected, and one could shed the virus, but not have the disease. And so, therefore, whereas it was a wonderful vaccine for preventing disease, it nevertheless was not a vaccine that could be used to eradicate polio because the virus could still be circulating.
And approaching their work.
All the while, researchers, including Dr. Albert Sabin, had been developing a more powerful weapon, one made from a live virus, a class of vaccine that includes one for smallpox.
They usually give broad protection, and they give, one other thing, lifelong immunity in general, which the non-live approaches don't always do.
They also stop the spread of disease, critical in the quest for eradication. Sabin's vaccine was finally approved in the U.S. in 1961.
All the children would on certain days, under a certain age, would get the vaccine. It worked extremely well. This was the approach that Sabin was recommending for eliminating the virus, so that all the children got the vaccine at one time, and this would stop the transmission.
Called iron lung.
Indeed, the incidence of polio in the U.S. began to drop from some 3,000 cases in 1960 to a mere 33 10 years later. But what about the rest of the world? Polio pioneer Hilary Kaprowski tested an oral vaccine in the Congo in the late 1950s. He knew even then that science finally had the right weapon for taking the battle from Main Street, USA to the far reaches of the globe.
You have to administer the vaccine in the simplest possible way without engagement of large medical personnel, because there are just not enough people. So we knew that with injectable vaccine, with nurses, syringes, physicians, we would never do it. But just by spraying something in the mouth, you of course could obtain that, and that was the first, probably in the world, indication that this is the technique.
UN agencies like the World Health Organization and UNICEF began massive inoculation programs in the early 1970s. Back then, only 20% of children in the developing world received